Welcome back to TDC Classic Cars, our debut show. We're here out in Scarborough. I love Scarborough. I grew up in Scarborough, so it's like home away from home for me, so it's awesome. I love it here. We're here with Peter Cullingford. He's the owner of Picture Vehicle Specialties. Peter, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
This is great. So before we went to break, we were going to talk about behind the scenes, the day-to-day operations. So let me give you a scenario. So let's just say one of the bigger studios calls you and just say, okay, we're doing a military show, but we need to find a chassis that's from the 50s. So what would you do? Or not even a military, or just a car, but so take me through the hunt.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we maintain a fleet of vehicles,
Okay.
and it seems one of those things that's always something you don't have.
Of course.
Right? It's always going to be like that. I think that's with everything, right?
Everything.
But so if there's a specific vehicle, we'll start locally. We'll check the ads on different, online things.
Kijiji or
Facebook,
Yeah.
all of those ones, and it's also word of mouth too, right? From being in the business for a while, people always offer up cars, and we have an idea who's got what period of cars, because people collect certain things.
Yeah.
I went one time, my favorite find are barn finds, and one thing I kind of enjoy now that we're more of established is if we're going to get a car, I'd like to find a barn find and bring it back. Like this, for example, like when we talk about the Charger, this was a barn find, and we turned that one around from the dead back to what it is now. But so, for example, say they wanted a specific vehicle. We just did a production that needed a 50s Pontiac.
Okay.
And so that was, the search went on for that, and it was a very specific car they wanted, and we ended up bringing it from Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Yeah. So.
So what would you do? Put a feeler out there and say, hey.
Put a feeler out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different. Well, the internet is the best.
Yeah.
Best friend. Right?
There you go.
You can type in a search for pretty much anything you can think of. You can find.
What do these owners say when you go to their lot that they have a car that's sitting there for 40 years or 10 years, or what?
Well, there's two things with it. If sometimes we can't tell them that it's for a film.
Yeah.
And because unfortunately sometimes they see cars blowing up on film and things like that, and they're like, oh, I'm not giving you that car, which is a problem sometimes, right? And because the cars definitely lead a hard life on film sometimes, right? But we're also very aware that we're not going to destroy a piece of history. Right, and that's for example, we're talking about a Pontiac, Pontiac Bonneville. Well, there's lesser models of that same. They weren't as collectible, and we'll try and bring something like that. Okay, well, we wrecked it, or it was beyond. It was somebody would never restore it.
What type of so if you're out of somebody's farm and he's got a chassis that's oh my God, it's going to take a lot to read. But what would they ask? What would they ask for? It depends on the car.
It depends on the car. It depends on the motivation of the seller.
So give me. Do you have an experience, like you got a scenario that you can tell me, like we paid for a blah 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 car?
I was looking. I saw a Chrysler Imperial. 1962 Chrysler Imperial, and it was a nice car. So the wings and the little thing on the tail fins and that, right? And it was an online sale, and the guy was just so mad at dealing with the people online, as sometimes that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And anybody who's had experience doing online purchasing or selling, it's very frustrating.
Hit and miss,
very frustrating sometimes. And he was just so upset with the process. He says, "Listen, I want this for the car, and it was way less than half of what it was." And I said, "Okay, are you sure?" Right? And he's like, "Yeah." And so we got the car from him, and I told him we're going to try and restore the car.
Okay.
And it was one of those things. It was another family member's car, and
so it's a kind of sentimental.
So it has
value.
some sentimental value,
sure.
right? And sometimes it's really hard to get people to sell their car.
Even if
who actually want to sell their car.
Even if the car is not managed, even if the car's a wreck, it's they still don't want to get rid of it.
Sometimes they just don't and we don't search them out. It's funny. I've been to purchase a car one time, and it was up for sale, and we offered the price they wanted, and then oh, I don't know, we got to think about it. I'm like, okay, you put the car up for sale. So sometimes it's a bit frustrating too.
I'm thinking what would be great as we go on through the shows is maybe the channel can sort of delve into your experience, and we can get a car and we can build a car on the show.
Yeah, that would be fun. And
that would be fun.
What would be fun about that is finding the car.
Yeah.
And we've seen some crazy things. I bought a Volkswagen van, but it was a pickup truck style, like it was a pickup, and it was definitely a barn find. The barn had fallen over, and I don't know how this van stayed in there. It was literally on about 4 planks, and the rest of the barn had fallen away, and and the wheels were seized. So we had to wet down all the boards and slide it to try and get it out, and yeah, we got it out.
I hear exactly what you're saying, because I'm a big fan of Dover. So I go to Dover all the time, and on the way out there, you're driving through the country, and there's cars all over on the farmers' lots. Like,
there's lots of cars. Yeah.
Lots of cars. Can you tell us? And then we're going to take a quick break. And I think what we're going to do is, after we come back, we're going to take a little bit of a tour, and Peter's going to tell us, oh, this car's for that. But before we do that, can you share a couple, I guess, big productions that you guys have been a part of? I guess there's so many, right? There's so many.
And it's funny, a lot of the productions operate under
secrecy.
A different name.
Oh, do they? Oh.
And I'm like, oh, I'll be watching something and there'll be a movie or a TV show. And I'm like, that looks like our cars. This doesn't even look like Toronto. Wait, oh, yeah, that is our car.
Yeah, so tell me that. Tell me a couple big features that maybe your cars have been in, or TV series.
Yeah, so we've done quite a few TV shows. The first one I was talking about was Flashpoint, which was the
great show,
and that was a good timing. That was a co-production with an American production and Canadian.
It was actually a Canadian show. 10 years?
That was started in 2007.
There you go. Okay,
And that was the good thing about that show was it brought back the American productions to Canada.
Oh, great.
Right? For the longest time, it was hard. Canada doesn't know anything about film.
Tax dollars, right?
And tax dollars does it too.
Yeah.
But there was a writer's strike or something at the time, I believe, and it was good timing.
Yeah.
And then so it brought a lot of people back to film in Canada, and now the business is
crazy.
It's crazy. They can't keep up with crew and studio space. But the good thing about that is employment opportunities in Toronto and Ontario, even in Canada. It's great. We've got such a great crew now.
Well, I have to mention, just to interject quickly, I have such a great relationship with White's International, Mr. Boffman.
Yeah.
Like, are they the biggest in Canada, or definitely one of the biggest production houses?
They're definitely one of the biggest suppliers,
Yeah,
and now they're delving into the studio rental. I was just today, actually, I was down on what they call the Pixel stage.
Okay.
And it's basically hundreds, if not thousands, of LED screens, and it's replaced the green screen of the day, and it looks so real.
Wow.
When you look at the screens, it kind of curves around. That you're like, wow, this is really good. Right?
Crazy.
So that's another piece of technology that's.
So Flashpoint, and remember you said you were doing a military, because you do a lot of military stuff, right? Too.
Yeah, we've done quite
a military up in Vaughan a little while ago, and a couple other series. And then we're going to take a quick break, and then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our camera guy, and me and Peter are going to walk through his shop here, and he's going to tell us, because I think there's sort of like 3 sections here, right? So what are we sitting in here? What would you call this? The mechanic shop, or?
This would be like this is the mechanic shop where the final preparation before the cars would go out. We can wash them in here, check them over.
Okay.
Do most of our mechanical work. We have a fabrication shop, which we do a lot of minor fabrication, sometimes larger things. For example, the truck that's
tell us
behind
the truck. Tell us what's with the truck.
So this truck, it's a scratch-built vehicle. It's based on a Chevrolet Avalanche chassis, and we took surplus military parts as well as scanned in the side profile of a real military vehicle and had to shrink it down, because this is about a 1/3 scale of what the full-size one would be sometimes, right? And so, it looks the part.
And it's getting ready for a series?
It's getting ready. It's going out on a movie right now.
Oh, really?
A series. A feature.
And how about the Charger behind me? So that is the look, like you said, it's the 69er, right?
This one's a 69,
yeah.
The difference would be tail lights and some other things with it. This one, the 69 Charger, this was something we built as a stunt car.
Okay.
So it was a stunt double to the Hero one, and the Hero one for this feature, which hasn't aired yet. So, but they spent, I would say, 100 to 140,000 US on their Hero car, and of course they don't want to damage that car, right? It's an investment for them.
Yeah.
So this particular car, it came down to the crunch, and we're like, okay, we need to get the second car, and nobody really wanted to cough up their Charger for a movie to stunt it. So we found this as a barn find. We found it on a Thursday night, and we went and got the cash to go buy it, and we literally drove overnight and waited in the guy's driveway to get it the next morning. and we had a bidding war in this guy's driveway with
Wow.
people phoning him to buy it. And we were there. We paid about $6,000 more than his asking price. But we got the car, we brought it back. There was no frame in the back, was gone. The engine was seized. There was no interior. And we turned this car around in about 3 weeks. It's not perfect,
Remarkable.
but it does its job.
Does
It's
its job.
the 20-foot car, right?
That's
Like,
great.
It looks good here, but you know, it could use more further restoration. But
I love these stories. Like, there's always a story to a car, so when you can attach the story of the car to its past, to its present, where it's going, that's like, it's almost like a person, right?
yeah,
it's great.
It is.
It's
And
great.
It has a history, and you know, a lot of the cars have a history that we get. So.
Okay, so stay tuned. You're watching TDC Classic Cars. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to go for a tour.